Hey YouTube, we're back with the Sunbird. Just got done doing a magnetic catch. Oh, that's so wonderful. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to the next thing on the list. One of these things. So the 20 amp ESC, we're going to replace that with a 30 amp ESC. Let's just see if we've got something that might work better than the Hobbyking one that I just checked out. This is my inventory box. When I buy stuff, I inventory it like this so that it makes it neat and doesn't take up 6 rooms. It only takes up 2 rooms that way. Oh, look, electronic speed controls and motors and things. So when I order stuff from Hobbyking, I order a lot. Oh, that's a 20 amp. That's a lot bigger 20 amp ESC than the one in there. One thing is a very robust power supply, the one I've got inside that plane right there. Oh, yes, you know what I think I do have? What's this one? I don't think I want to use that one. And I've got some motors and good things like that. Let's jump over to another bag. So basically what I'm going to do is I have to determine, these are servos, that's not going to do any good. And some of these strange steps like this, you guys are probably wondering, why the heck do you include this in the video? Why don't you sort it out and then put it on the video? Well, I don't know. Some people learn things in different ways. Like, hey, look, it's a list, guys. These are the things I'm going to do to this plane. And look, I got one thing crossed off. And if you're weird like me, you'll make a list and then cross it off, even though you're done with it. Yep, that's how weird people are. Like me. And if you make your own list and cross things off, even though you're done with it, then comment on my channel. Look at this! Look at this fancy dance right here. Ready to fly quads.com. Look at that. I wonder what size that is. That looks like it's probably 20. I'm guessing it's 20. I'm not even going to bother with it. Let's just double check in here. I got this awesome brushed motor from my grandpa last night. Hilarious plan. So get this, the control system for this was supposed to have a heat shrink on here, and you drill a hole, and then the servo turns this on and off. That's your throttle control. So it's like non-discrete control. It's on or it's off. It's like a reed-controlled system from back in the 1960s. So anyway, I thought that was a heck of a cool concept, minus the cool and plus the huge, like, dangerous stupidity. But back in the day, you know, they just didn't have the technology we have today. We got some good stuff coming out these days. So I think I'm going to just go with, oh, I have another idea. I've got some ESCs. Let's see, ESC good? ESC good? Really? It says motor bad, ESC good. Okay, let's see what this is. Ooh, that looks horrific. Bad ESC, good BEC. Oh, yeah, that's smart. Yeah, okay, well, we're just going to pack that back up. See, this is why you make notes, guys, so that you can later recover them improperly. This one says, bad motor parts. We're going to see, guys. Yep, that's just the motor. And see, this motor was involved with a premature landing on the nose. I had a rudder brake on that plane right there. I had the linkage on the rudder broke in half, and I came out of basically what would be arguably a hover, and I didn't hover anymore after that. I landed really quick though on the ground. Alright, so I guess in this case my soldering iron's hot, and I'm probably just going to go ahead and use this 30 amp ESC right here. Here's the 30 amp. I also have a 40 amp here, and the 40 amp already has all these goodies built onto it. Sort of tempting to go with something like that, just because I don't know. The only problem is I'm not sure I can get away with a Simon. And then of course this is going to go into my new beautiful project, this or this, depending on the weight differential. So I'm probably just going to go with the 30 amp ESC, I guess. Probably should have ordered another one of those when I was on Hobbyking just the other night, literally making an order. Okay, so the canopy's off. First things first, we're going to go ahead and pull the ESC up. We're going to disconnect the line, and then we're just going to unplug the motor. Now keep it in mind, these colors don't mean anything, okay? Self. Remember, these colors don't mean anything. And guys, it doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. Okay, because when we're done with this, we'll be able to figure out. Now I'm trying to remember what size that is. I could desolder them, but that's kind of a lot of work. I'm probably just gonna solder on new leads on this. This is a Hobbyking. I believe it's called a Plush. And I've had pretty good luck with these things. Oh, look at that. There it is. Oh, look at that. UBEC. So, and it's a 30 amp UBEC, meaning the UBEC runs the battery elimination circuit. I forget what U stands for. Uninterruptible? I don't know. I'll figure it out. And the BEC runs at 5 volts at 3 amps, and this is capable of LiPos 2 through 4S, or if it's nickel metal hydride or whatever that is 5 through 12S. Of course, who uses those batteries anymore? Except for maybe on gliders. Some people do use the heavier ones. So we got the soldering iron here. We're going to get this tip cleaned up. We're going to clean it some more mechanically here. We're going to clean it some more with some chemicals. And then we're going to use some solder to tin the tip. Ooh, look at that. It's fancy. Oh, lead. Yes, leaded solder. Okay. So next thing's next. I have to get some ends figured out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my battery thingy-mabobber bag. And I'm going to set it down here. And then I'm going to pause it. I'm going to put some stuff away. Okay, so the first things first, we need to make sure we have a way of plugging in a battery. And you're probably wondering, well, why XT60, Brian, on a plane this size? You could do a JST or something of the sort. Sure, I could. But most all of my batteries are set up for XT60, so that's what I'm going to be using today. And after you're done picking your things up off the ground, notice there's polarity markings on these, which is kind of handy. And you can see, sort of, make it out through the heat shrink on this. But if you didn't know they were marked for polarity, they are. Just kind of handy. And what you want to do is get your heat shrink ready. And the heat shrink is in another bag right here. The red and black heat shrink is in this bag. Now, sometimes when I'm doing LEDs on a plane, I'm not doing LEDs right now. I'm doing LEDs at some point, but right now I'm not going to do LEDs. Sometimes I will run them directly off the battery. In this application, I probably could get away with that because I could run them at 12 volts or 3S, or approximately 12 volts. But I've been having pretty good luck running them on receiver voltage, but just keeping in mind that you do consume voltage and current, or power is another way of looking at that. And so you need to keep that in mind. So we're going to grab the appropriate size. Oh, look at that. Hobbyking part numbers. That's interesting. If you're into doing business with Hobbyking, I had somebody that was warning all my viewers, oh, Hobbyking, do not use Hobbyking. Well, you can use Hobbyking if you want. You just have to know you're probably going to eventually be pissed off. If you can handle that, do tons of business with Hobbyking. I do quite a bit of business with Hobbyking. Am I always wholly satisfied with their work? Heck no, I'm not. Because I don't like getting crap. But let's just be real. Their stuff is cheap enough that you can still get crap a couple of times, a year, and still come out and still have made a reasonable crack at it, So if you can't tolerate that out of principle, don't do business with them. But I'm warning you, you're doing business with Chinese companies that make this Chinese junk for like pennies on the dollar to American dollars. You're going to want to make sure you don't get your standards too high, or you're not going to have any of this stuff, because most of this crap all comes from the same places. Even if it's marketed here in North America, and there's a company that then eats it for you, they're still doing the same thing, guys. The difference is they just have a quality department that says, well, we need to build the price in, make it 20% more so we can handle every 5th plane coming back to us. Or something to that extent. That's just a total ballpark. Alright, cool, guys. We got red. Heat shrink. Look at that. That worked pretty nice. We're going to slide that all the way back, keep the heat away from it. Second thing we're going to do is we're going to heat up the tip. We're going to grab some forceps. Forceps with a bent tip work nicely for just about anything you need to do, including surgeries. That was a joke, guys. Unless, of course, you're in prison. That seems to be the topic of the day. If you're in... Oh, hey! I almost forgot my favorite trick with this. use a male and a female plug. I don't know why I got black ones. They were out of stock one day. I would never pick black ones because it's kind of hard to see the difference between the sides when they're dark like that. Okay, cleaning the tip. Okay, here we go. So I'm just going to use this tip. I'm going to get a little bit of solder on there. I'm going to touch that to the goldish area. And then I'm going to run solder and let the flux flow the solder into the joint. Then I'm going to take and reposition this very slightly. And I'm going to do the same thing and let it flow into the hole. Okay? There. Secondly, these are already tinned, it looks like, so that's kind of handy. I don't have to tin them further, but I'm probably going to strip back just a touch. This silicone wire does not shrink back, which is really nice when you don't want it to shrink back. But as with many adverse side effects in the electrical world, i.e. resistance, we use it to our advantage in many ways, i.e. controls. Resistance is an adverse thing that we tame and use to make decisions electrically. That's kind of cool. Okay, so you can see that there's a blob of solder here. I'm going to go ahead and heat this. Let that blob suck back into the wire a little bit. Come on. They use this chintzy, freaking lead-free junk. If it's lead-free, it's not going to give you cancer or make you go crazy. But at the same time, it sucks. So I would highly encourage you to use the stuff that's not nice to the environment, because it will work better and it will not end up crashing into the environment and becoming garbage. Double-edged sword. Alright guys, here we go. Woo, that wire's hot! Heating it up, heating it up, heating it up. Then I'm going to dive it in. Diving it in. Then I'm going to use this heat to make sure we have a nice smooth top. And I'm going to let go of that. And I'm going to let it cool just gradually a little bit. And I'm going to try to resist the temptation to let go because it's very hot. Okay, done with that side for now. We're going to come back and do the heat shrink right now. Ooh, got a lighter here. Okay, guys. So now, one trick. If it's still really hot, wait till it's not really hot. Also, clean the impurities off of there if there are any. I'm not going to take my own advice for the sake of time. I'm going to slide this down. Okay, very good. That worked well. Sometimes it doesn't work so well when you try to rush it. Okay, so that's done. Cool. So that's positive. That's what that plus means. That means the red goes to that side if you're not into electronics. And I don't mean to insult anybody's intelligence, because everybody starts somewhere. But with a mixed audience, you never know what people know. You have to assume everybody knows nothing, or that they know everything, and then you end up leaving everybody in the dust. It's not very fun if you're one of the people being left in the dust. Okay, so cleaning the tip in this chemical here, which lets off ammonia gas, so don't breathe it, guys. Alright, solder. The solder bridges the gap between the hot tip and the workpiece. In this case, it's a wire, very finely braided, silvery wire, low copper content, whatever's the cheapest crap they could get, I'm sure. Okay, now the second thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get in here and we're going to heat this up. We're going to touch the edge with only light pressure. We're going to touch that and it's going to flow onto the workpiece. That's going to help transmit the heat. We're going to let it work for a second, then we're going to put some solder in there. We're going to make a bridge with the solder, and then we're going to fill up this void. As you can see, it's kind of got a little bit of a pocket in there. I don't know if you guys can tell this, but I'm having to kind of look over the camera a little bit occasionally. Trying to give you guys a good view of stuff, but I still got to make sure I don't like catch myself on fire, particularly my face. There's something about that. People treat you weird if you have burned face. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and take this, move it back. I'm going to hold that still with my forearm, and then I'm going to bend this so that I have control of the cable, and then I'm going to heat the workpiece, not the wire. You can heat the wire too if you want. You just didn't have to transmit all the work, all that heat through the work. I'm just waiting for it to cool. And a lot of times it's super annoying because this wire will hold the shape then. So what you can do is while it's hot, you can complain about it. Wait, that's not a fix, Brian. Of course it's not. You can flip it over to where it's not gonna give you that weird shape, and then you can relax the wire where you want, and then you can touch it. I'm gonna clean the tip again. There's a bunch of build up on that. I'm gonna touch it to the cleaner, clean it. In case you guys are wondering, this is a 30-watt Weller iron. Very good iron. It's like 16 bucks or something. I've gone through about 7 of them at work, because when I'm at work, I'm very mean to my soldering irons. Okay, so you can see it's a nice, clean solder joint. We got good penetration, a little extra on there. By the way, solder is heavy. Don't overdo it too much, because you'll just make your plane fly worse, because it's heavy. Okay, look at that. That slid over very nicely. This thing is extremely hot, in case you're wondering. Yes, now it's very, very hot. If you get a sharp point, make sure you knock those sharp points down before you try to shrink it. Hey, these things work kind of nice as clevis keepers. So I have a little spot where I keep them with a bunch of O-rings and stuff. Alright, cool. So now my battery will be able to energize the circuit via that plug. This is still a little warm, so I'm a little bit reluctant to do this. Except that I'm going to just stick it into something else that will help to dissipate the heat, meaning a little bit of a wire. Alright, done there. So now the next step is I need to get the wires on the motor to attach to electronic speed control. So the next step is going to be to figure out what the heck this size is and if I have those connections. My guess is I probably do amongst all of my connectors here. Don't know that for a fact, but I bet I do. And you know where I'm going to start for sizing? I bet they're the same as an EC2. And if they're not the same as an EC2, they're probably the same as some other plug that I've got in here. Got lots of plugs, lots of little weird random things I'm probably never going to use. But if you don't have them, you can't use them. And if you need them, I don't want my project getting shut down by little connectors. So I tend to buy a lot of little connectors. Ooh, look at those beauties right there. Look at that, right there. Oh, look at that. That's actually another Hobbyking part number. Oh, those jerks that rip you off? Yep, pretty much. So, let's see if that works. And it sure looks like the same size, but we'll have to double check. So what I do is I buy those, I think it's like 10 connectors. Do not even worry about wasting these plastic things. Who cares? If you don't use them, don't use them. Just use the gold things. It ends up being a pretty fair value anyway. You might be able to get the little deals cheaper, but once you stick these into these connectors, they're set. You're not going to get them back. Okay, so these would be a female, also known as a socket. Now I'm not going to go into great detail on why their sockets are called females. If you don't know, ask your parents. Here's a pin that's penetrating the socket. And if you wait a few months, you'll have some small EC2 connectors. Alright, here you are, guys. Alright, so here we go. Oh my goodness gracious, great balls of fire. We're good. It's the correct size. That is phenomenal. There's 3 of them. Putting all this crap back now, so it's out of our way. Then we're going to solder that junk. You've noticed I tend to not be very nice to my equipment. Calling it crap and everything. Where can you hear me? Not very nice. It's the crap I bought. It's the crap I picked, I guess. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to heat up and figure out a way to... obviously, we don't have to worry about the heat shrink because it's going to be small enough to fit over this when we're done. We don't want this in the way. Hey, look, airplanes. Cool. And helicopters. Okay, take this. Grab onto it with something big like this. Okay? Why, Brian? Well, you do that because it helps to dissipate heat. It makes the work easier, plus you can hold it with that. Okay, I'm going to point that up at a general in the vicinity of what I'm trying to do. And hey, real quick, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to grab some safety glasses. And these safety, hold on, I'll put them on you guys. Okay, safety glasses on. Alright, look at this. Look at this. It doesn't fit. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? What we're going to do is we're going to take these flat-edged pliers and we're going to go squish. And we're going to see if we get it to fit. And if it doesn't fit, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make it fit. Okay, so it doesn't fit. So the next step is like that. Then we're going to strip this back, and then we're going to attempt with just like this. Oh yeah, baby. She's a fittin'. Okay, cool. So now I'm just going to make this angle about what I want when it's done. I'm just going to hold that steady. That's one method you can do so you don't have to have hands on hot workpieces. I'm going to heat up the tip. The tip's going to get nice and clean. And then I'm going to mechanically clean it. And I'm going to go back into it. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to tin it. And then once I'm done tinning it, I'm going to hold on the workpiece. Kind of weird. Sometimes these things will magnetize themselves to a certain extent. And that just happened to me there. When I was trying to touch this, it was trying to pull it toward itself. Ooh, look at that. It's sucking it into the work. Look at that, guys. Look at that. Look at that. Okay, so I'm just going to work it, work it, work it. And then I'm going to take a little solder wick. Little solder wick. I'm going to take the solder wick and I'm going to put it next to the joint. And I'm going to heat it up and it's going to suck out the extra. A lot of sucking going on here. Okay, good. So it's sucked away just perfectly. So as you can see, that's a pretty nice little clean solder joint. The only thing I don't like is that I have a bigger gap, so I'll learn my lesson and strip it back differently next time. Oh man, I heat it up. Oh jeez, oh man, my workbench is going to have a little divot in it forever. Well, that's fine, I'll move on. Okay, so now we're going to do the blue one and the red one. Now if this was a live battery, you wouldn't want to touch both at the same time. So it's a good thing it's not a live battery, right? Okay, second thing, remember, I don't need to strip back as much because we're not getting very deep penetration on these. Okay, so we're just using, these are just Craftsman brand strippers, but you know what, guys, don't hate Craftsman because they actually, I think they make decent tools. Even if they are made in Mexico and you'd want them to be made in America. If you're from America. If you're from Mexico, you probably want them made in Mexico. But since I'm from central Iowa. Anyway, getting back to the point. Alright, so we're going to strip that out, clean the tip. Alright, cool. So now we're going to see if that fits. And I think it's going to fit. Oh yeah, baby. She fits. Oh yeah, baby. Clean the tip already. See how it's stuck? Okay, I'm just letting the work suck that solder. That is so good stuff right there, guys. Okay, now we're going to take the solder wick, which is literally wick made of copper. We're just going to heat it up and suck the excess. It's almost as bad as a vacuum, you know, it's just, job sucks. Or capillaries. This job capillaries, boss, I quit. Can you guys tell that I'm a nerd? Come on, get out of there. So there's some bit of corrosion in there, so I'm going to scooch down to where there's a little bit of solder already used up. It's kind of weird. This solder wick works better, in my experience, when you already have a little bit of solder in the filament, or whatever you want to call this, the wick itself. Sorry, I got off camera there, guys. Woo-wee! There it goes. Now it's wicking in there. That might have been the exception to the rule right there. Normally that doesn't work quite as good when you have. Okay, cool. So we're just going to reposition that wire so it's nice and square. And this is where you want to make sure you avoid those sharp points. Sharp points will protrude through your heat shrink, potentially compromising the electronics on your airplane. Also known as protecting, you might lose the whole plane, it might crash. So be careful. It's actually a fairly critical area. Those tips are a little warm right now. That's okay. Less heat has to be transferred into them then. Okay, so we got that lined up and shoved in the hole. Okay, so we are going to okay, now if you're careful the way you do this, you can sometimes guide it into the area you want it to go so you have less desoldering to do if you want to have a pretty joint at the end. You can see how much, I mean, I start with a thing like that and I end up with this very small solder joint, really. So you can imagine I'm not really sparing much expense with this joint. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to, oh geez, sorry guys. We're just going to heat that and let that solder walk next to it. I hate solder drips like that. They just drive me nuts because they serve no function other than wasting weight. Okay, and then I'm going to hold this and re-manipulate the position because obviously we have good penetration of solder into our solder joint. Okay, there's a little knob on there. Okay, so we're going to let that cool for just a second while we hold it. Okay, she's set up. Alright, cool. So now we can put some heat shrink on there. So we'll just detach that. Alright guys, so the next move is going to be fairly simple. We're going to take and find an appropriate sized heat shrink, which I have a variety of different sizes. Hobbyking sells all this stuff. Just be careful. Hobbyking is a real bunch of jerks that sell stuff that I want, so I'm going to keep buying it from them. Even though they're going to keep annoying me and trying to rip me off. Okay, cut it. Seriously, if somebody wants to take over for them, I'd be happy to go somewhere else. Oh, you mean like Tower Hobbies or Horizon Hobby or any of those companies? Sure, I do business with them too. I also have stuff that comes dead on arrival from all of them too. But don't worry, I'll beat up Horizon, all of them equally. That is, unless they send me planes to review, and then I will give you a biased opinion. Just kidding, guys. Just kidding. Okay, so we're just gonna heat shrink these color for color. Nothing really magical about that. Doesn't really matter because it's probably not gonna line up color for color anyway. They never seem to line up color for color anyway. Okay, so we'll just heat her up, get those shrunk down. That size, if you're wondering, was this part number. It's a Hobbyking part number. Okay, it's made in China. What? Okay, so we're going to do the black, and then we actually have blue as well. We're coming up on the end of our time here, so try to hurry up and get this done. I would pause it, except I've been having problems with my videos. When I pause my videos, they will occasionally just go into La La Land, and then I never get them back, and then I spend literally hours trying to recover the video. I usually get about half of it, and then everybody survives, but I'm really annoyed because I wasted like half my evening trying to recover a video that nobody probably cared about anyway. Okay, blue. Oh, look at that part number. That's weird. What is that, from Hobbyking? Yes it is. Okay, so please guys, don't ask me to make a wiring diagram for this. I'm not gonna do it. You guys have been pretty good to me about not asking for crap like that, but if you want a wiring diagram, just watch the video like 14 times. But make sure, well, no, I can't ask you to do that, never mind. I won't. Ooh, did you see what happened there? It wanted to slip back. That can be a problem. Okay, cool. So we got the 3 tips ready to go. And we are going to ram these in here. black to black. I guess I'm going to go blue to yellow. Like I said, doesn't really matter at this point. We don't know what